This episode is brought to you by Dashlane. Try Dashlane Premium free for 30 days at dashlane.com/infographics. And never forget another password and keep all your online accounts secure. Space, the final frontier. It's a merciless void full of cosmic phenomenon hell-bent on killing you. The single most uninhabitable environment in the universe. Just to reach it demands the very best of nations, the finest engineering, the most intelligent scientists, and the bravest, most upstanding of astronauts. With not just lives but hundreds of millions of dollars at stake in every launch, the astronauts who represent their home nations also represent the very best of that nation. Yet despite this, it seems we're all fallible and prone to crimes of passion. That's right, the first ever space crime has finally been committed, and some people are wondering exactly how this is going to work, really. You've probably seen a Hollywood movie or two where the crooks try to make a break for open sea. Once out in international waters, they can't be convicted of criminal acts. After all, nobody owns the open sea, right? Well, that's only half true, because nobody in fact does own the open sea, and it actually belongs to everybody. That, however, does not mean by any length that you can get away with crime scot-free. See, long ago the international community got together and agreed that there had to be a legal framework for crimes committed on the high seas. The problem was whose laws should be followed in open waters, and if one country's laws were enacted everywhere, then wouldn't that sort of violate the whole nobody owns the open ocean thing? To simplify matters, the world agreed to some basic maritime laws that all nations would adopt and be applicable to ship traffic anywhere in the world. But for individual crimes, it was decided that national law would dictate if what you did was a crime or not. Basically, whatever nation a ship is registered in, then that's the country whose laws will be enforced on board that vessel. So if you committed, say, murder on the high seas while aboard a Pakistani ship, you would be tried and punished under Pakistani law, regardless of your own nationality. Thankfully, nations generally agree on the big don'ts of the 10 Commandments. So there's not a nation you can register your ship with that'll let you throw giant murder parties and get away with it. Less fortunately, there's a huge disparity in other laws that govern other issues, such as safety and worker compensation. That's why most big transport vessels are actually registered in Panama, the Marshall Islands, and Liberia, as it allows their operators to pay their crews less and pay less taxes overall. Now we turn our focus to space, and the world's first bona fide space crime. Annie McClain is an astronaut and former U.S. Air Force combat pilot with over 800 flight hours in a combat environment. Recently, however, she was on a 6-month mission to the International Space Station, and while aboard the ISS, committed the world's first space crime. Back on Earth, McClain and her partner had been undergoing a very messy divorce. In order to keep tabs on her partner's financial activities, McClain used the ISS's internet connection to log into her partner's bank account, despite the fact that at the moment the two were in the middle of a divorce. She used the information to confront her partner about several aspects of the divorce's settlement, and in turn, McClain's partner filed a criminal complaint against her. According to her partner, McClain improperly accessed her finances and stole her identity, so to speak, in order to gain access to those financial records. McClain counters by saying that she was simply overseeing their joint finances, as she had often done while they were married. However, as of this episode, this is all still just allegations, and because we don't live in China, McClain is innocent until proven guilty. Granted, it's not as exciting as smuggling dilithium crystals or even space murder, but inappropriately logging into someone else's secure bank records is still a pretty serious crime and can in fact be construed, legally speaking, as identity theft. Punishment varies on a state-by-state basis, but identity theft is a felony in every state in the Union. In Georgia, for example, you can receive up to 10 years in prison. This, however, raises a rather curious point about McClain's crime. What state exactly would she be tried in for a crime committed from outer space? While in space, all astronauts are governed by national law, no different than if they were on the high seas. On the ocean, though, McClain would have faced the consequences for whatever state her vessel was registered in the United States. But in space, the International Space Station is, well, international. While astronauts themselves are governed by the law of their home country, details get murky in this case as far as what state should McClain be tried in if found guilty of identity theft. In some cases, the federal government steps in, especially if identity theft charges are brought against someone who has committed the act across several states. But this is usually reserved for big-time offenders, such as major hackers or criminal figures whose actions might span across the entire nation, and in fact the world. McClain wasn't even in the world when she committed her crime though, so who's gonna punish her and under what jurisdiction? This is of course assuming that McClain is found guilty, which is being investigated now. NASA's Inspector General itself is looking into the matter, and likely there will be no charges filed as the evidence against McClain may be a bit weak. Most married couples, after all, do know each other's financial record information. Still, this whole case has got many people back on Earth thinking about the consequences of humanity's ever-expanding presence in space. Even now, Elon Musk is preparing to test a rocket that could take dozens of people into orbit and beyond per launch. He has repeatedly stated that his ultimate goal is human colonization of the solar system. Will these new human colonies follow the laws of their home countries too? Or should they be allowed to create new laws and govern themselves? What claim does Earth really have on people who live so far away it takes years and hundreds of millions of dollars just to get to them? These are all questions that humanity is going to have to start answering very soon indeed. And it may be interesting to think that though the first colonies in space may be American, Russian, and Chinese in origin, their distance and difficulty in physically getting to these colonists may see them declare independence. Perhaps Martians are already amongst us because some of Earth's children may grow up one day to go live on Mars permanently, eventually deciding that they want to govern themselves. Whatever the future holds, one thing is for certain: humanity is going to take its best to the stars along with its many vices, and we'd better be ready to deal with the consequences. But you don't need to go to space to find high-tech crimes being committed. They're happening right here on Earth right now. Hackers are watching everything you do online, trying to steal your passwords and information, and you need to protect yourself. What you need is a VPN, and Dashlane with its powerful and easy-to-use VPN is the perfect solution. Browse what you want when you want and be confident that you're doing so safely and privately, with no snooping eyes monitoring you or your digital activity. Plus, Dashlane's app features password storage and breach alerts, so you can quickly log into any account on any device and be alerted if anyone else tries to break into it as well. Head on over to dashlane.com/infographics for a free 30-day trial, and if you use the coupon code Infographics, you can get 10% off a premium subscription today. How should we punish crimes in space? Space jail? Picking up trash out of Earth's orbit on a space chain gang? Tell us your ideas in the comments, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more great content.